Alright, this video is going to focus on percent change, and there are multiple ways to do these problems. I'm going to kind of just show you how my brain works and how I do them, which is primarily with proportions, because not always, but for the most part, that's how my brain sees them. So I'm going to read this problem here. The average monthly rent payments in West Lafayette are 31.7% more than monthly rent in Fort Wayne, where they are $634. What's the average rent payment in West Lafayette? Okay, now the way I see this, I'm comparing West Lafayette to Fort Wayne. I don't know what any of that is. West Lafayette to Fort Wayne. And it says that West Lafayette are 31.7% more. Well, if Fort Wayne is 100%, and West Lafayette is 31.7% more, I would add that to 100. So I would get 131.7, and that's half of my proportion. Now on the other half, it says the rent in Fort Wayne is 634. So Fort Wayne's on the bottom, 634 goes there, and my unknown variable x goes in the top. So when I cross multiply, I have 100x equals 83,497.8. I divide both sides by 100, and the average rent in Lafayette would be $834.98. Number 2, if Avon's population is 18% smaller than Brownsburg's population of 23,000, what is Avon's? Okay, so we are comparing Avon to Brownsburg. Okay, now Avon is 18% smaller. So if Brownsburg is 100 and Avon is 18% smaller, we're going to take that 100%, we're going to subtract 18, and Avon would be 82%. So if Brownsburg population is 23,000, how big is Avon? So again, we cross multiply. 100x equals 1886,000. Divide both sides by 100. And it's kind of hard to see. Avon's population would be 18,860 people. Number 3, the local food pantry expects its donations to increase by 70% for the month of November. If they receive 250 pounds in October, what should they expect in November? Okay, so we're talking about November compared to October. Now, increase 70% in November. Well, if October was 100, November's increasing by 70%. In October, they're 250 pounds, and therefore we have x on the top. So we cross multiply. 100x equals 42,500. Divide both sides by 100, and they can expect 425 donations in November. Number 4, the number of people who use non-smartphones will continue to decrease by 35% next year. Currently, there are 2.4 million people using non-smartphones. My dad is one of them. How many people will use non-smartphones next year? Okay, so we're talking about next year compared to this year. All right, so it says next year will decrease by 35%, so we're going to take away 35. So next year is 65 compared to this year's 100%. If we currently, that's this year, 2.4 million. I'm just going to put 2.4 with the notion that my answer here will also be in million. So when I cross multiply, 100x equals 156. X gives me 1.56 million people will use a non-smartphone next year. My dad will be one of them. Number 5, Melissa makes $2,500 per month in gross pay, so really she earns that. She doesn't make it. Making money is illegal. Her tax bracket is 20%. What is her take-home pay? Well, when you're thinking this through, if her tax bracket is 20%, that means she earns 80% of her gross. That's what she takes home. Take home is 80% of her gross. And so when I think through this problem, that's kind of how I think through it. Her tax bracket, what does that mean? Well, if they take out 20%, it means she's keeping 80%. And I could totally write this as a proportion, right? She keeps 80% for her take home. So take home's on the top, gross is on the bottom. If she grosses 2,500, what's the top. This is also one that I think is easier to write as an equation. Take home is 80% of her gross pay, and her gross pay is $2,500. Either way you do that, you get $2,000 is her take home pay, whether you cross multiply and divide or solve as an equation. Number 6, Robert spent $19,950 on a new van. Morgan estimates this is, when she says this is, she's referring to Robert. Robert is 33% more than what she spent on her compact car. So we're talking about Robert compared to Morgan. So Robert is 33% more. So that would be 133. Morgan is 100. Because remember, in percents, reference is always 100. And Rob spent $19,950, and we don't know how much Morgan spent. So when we cross multiply and divide, you should get an X value of approximately $15,000 that Morgan spent on her compact car. Number 7, Ashley found a new tablet on sale for $300. This was on sale for 40% off the original price. Okay, well, if it's 40% off, that means it's 60% on. That's how much you're still paying. So you're paying 60% of the 100. So this is full price, this is sale price. So if she bought it on sale for $300, that goes on top, X goes on the bottom. We cross multiply and divide, and the original price of that tablet was $500. Number 8, the bill for lunch was $23.54 after the 7% Indiana tax. What was the bill before tax? So after tax, before tax. Well, before tax was 100% of your bill. Then you pay the 7% sales tax, which is added on top of your food item. And, excuse me, the bill was $23.54 after tax. We're trying to find the price before tax. So, again, we cross multiply and divide, and we end up with $22. You'll notice I'm no longer showing your cross multiply value. If you need to see those, shoot me an email and I can send you a document. Number 9, Garla intends to start training for a half marathon. Good for you, Garla. She plans to increase her running schedule by 25% to 35 miles per week. So this increase of 25 would be 35 miles. So that's going to go together. So we're going to talk about her increase over what she's doing now. All right, so she wants to increase by 25%. So her increase will be 125%. Her now is 100%. And remember, her increase is 35 miles. How many is she doing now? So when we cross multiply, 125x equals 3,500. Right now, she is currently doing 28 miles a week. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. In number 10, in 1998, only 21% of the adult population of Ivy Stan has a college degree. After a large push to complete 2- and 4-year degrees, that number has risen by 97%. So this is a 97% increase. Okay, so this is after the push, this is before the push. So when you think about it, after the push, it's risen 97 degrees. So that means if before we were at 100%, when you increase by 97%, we're now at 197. Now, 21% was before the push. So that goes on the bottom. How many do we have now? And you might say, well, that's a percent. Well, it's kind of like percentage points. So you can treat it just as a basic number. When you cross multiply, we end up with, I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth, 41.37, and that is percent of the Ivy Stan population, right? Not quite doubled, which makes sense because 97% increase is not quite, 100% increase is a double, so 97% is not quite that much. Number 11, Ivy City, the capital of Ivy Stan, averages 85% relative humidity in the mornings, but it decreases. So here's the decrease by 18% in the afternoon. Okay, so we're talking about afternoon compared to the morning. Okay, if it decreases by 18%, if the humidity is at 100% and then it decreases by 18%, that makes it 82, right? Because 100 minus 18 is 82. Now, it averages 85% in the morning. So morning, it averages 85. What does it average in the afternoon if it decreased 18%? All right, so we cross multiply and we end up with 69.7% humidity. Now, you might be thinking right now, this makes no sense. These are all percents. How do I know which one to subtract from 100 and which one not to? Well, when you see decrease, or increase. That tells you it goes with the 100 because that's the comparison piece. Here, where it just says average is 85%, that could be, that's like you averaging 85% on a test. You're not talking about how much you went up or down. You're talking about your grade. So this 85% humidity, just think humidity is 85. Just think of it as a number more than an increase. So look for the word increase or decrease, and that tells you what goes with 100. Number 12, if there are 25% more supervillains than superheroes. Okay, here we have the word more. We don't have an increase or a decrease, but we have the word more. So that's going to tell you what goes with 100. Now, what goes on top? We have more supervillains. So villains on top, heroes go on the bottom, right? There's always more bad than good, it feels like. If 2.4% of the population are villains, so 2.4 are villains, what percent are superheroes? So we cross multiply and divide. 1.92% of the population are heroes. And last one on this video, Matt's employer gives raises based on merit. Most employees received a raise of 2.4%. So that's just their raise. Just think of this as 2.4. But Matt's raise was 4.6% of his income. So just think about 4.6. What percentage more? Again, that more is kind of like an increase. So we're talking about Matt compared to everyone else. And they say what percentage? So Matt's was 4.6. Everybody else's was 2.4. So when we cross multiply, Matt's was 91.67% more than everybody else's. And that should make sense, right? Because 100% more would be doubled. And if you double 2.4, you get 4.8. So Matt's was not quite doubled, so it can't be 100%. And 91.67 is just a little bit shy of that. 4.6 is just a little bit shy of 4.8. So it makes sense logically as well that Matt got a 91.67% raise compared to everybody else's in terms of their income. All right, and that's a little bit of practice on percent change.